So, as Alice said, I'm Melissa Scheid. I'm the Managing Director at Publishers Communication Group, PCG. We work with many academic and scholarly publishers to solve sales and marketing issues with these publishers. And over the past few years, one of the most common struggles that publishers have brought to us are how to increase their ebook sales. So I suspect that's maybe why many of you are joining here as well. And we know that these publishers, when we talk with them about their program, we know that they've got great content, that they have digitized their backlists, that they have brand recognition, that they have invested in cutting-edge technology, and yet that needle for ebook sales has just flatlined a little bit. And so then the next question we ask them is how discoverable are your books? Do you have rich metadata around not only the book, but also around all the chapters? So we're going to spend the next few minutes really focusing on discoverability with a focus on chapter-level metadata. Okay. So you can see it isn't only just the folks I speak to, but last year, Library Journal with Gail Cengage did a survey of U.S. librarians and found that 56% of the librarians in America surveyed said that students and faculty just can't find the ebooks, and that's one of the reasons why ebook sales are projected to plateau this year. Now, I am not a financial person, but I know the word plateau is not a great investment for the next year. So what are publishers doing about this? So again, when we look at the discoverability by enhanced metadata, meaning chapter-level metadata, we want to figure out what are the most effective pieces of that, who's working on it, and what do you do with it once you have it. So right off the bat, NISO, the organization based in DC, has a collective, the Open Discovery Initiative, where they are working with a coalition of librarians, publishers, and industry vendors. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Industry vendors to establish best practices, standards, what the shape of metadata should look like, both on a book level but also on a chapter level. And they are coming up with ways to discuss Onyx feeds, KBART feeds, all these very exciting pieces that really are the lifeblood to discoverability and to hopefully increasing sales. When we think about whose job it is, does anybody in this room have a full-time taxonomist? I always want to say taxidermist, but that's something slightly different. But if anybody has one of those full-time, I'd be interested. You do. Any publishers have any full-time taxonomists on their staff? Anybody have a person who's assigned taxonomy but also has other responsibilities? In what departments do those people sit? Editorial.
Yeah, metadata.
Metadata department?
Yep.
So, I guess the question is, who has a metadata department of nature?
Yeah.
So the people responsible for creating the metadata, really what we're talking here in this case is the keywords. That can move around from publisher to publisher. Many publishers ask their authors to supply robust abstracts and keyword searches, keywords per chapter, but publishers are also hesitant to do that because authors are asked to do a lot these days. Some publishers put that on the marketing department, which makes sense. We are talking about discoverability issues, but marketing, my background is in marketing. I was responsible for marketing literature, physics, and the odd baseball book. I wasn't going to be the right person who could really get down into the data and really understand what those keywords are. Editorial makes some sense, except editors need to be out signing new authors. But there are also a host of third-party vendors who can work with you to extract the best keywords, extract the best metadata, and those third parties work in various ways, but largely a mix of electronically scanning your work, but also then having a human touch it as well. So there's a lot of different ways a publisher can get to the metadata. So once that's all created, then what happens with that metadata? I've talked with a handful of publishers who spend a lot of time gathering, collecting, storing this chapter-level metadata because they really want to increase their discoverability, but then they don't have any place to to send it out. So they have years' worth of work sitting stored in their own systems. And that is just heartbreaking to hear, because that could really be impacting their discoverability and ultimately their sales. So there are lots of different ways that you need to take your data and get it out to the world, of course, through feeds. We talked a little bit about that on the open access issue earlier this morning, felt like a couple minutes ago, actually, Yasmin. So you want to make sure that Google Scholar has access. You want to make sure that library catalog systems have access to your data. You also want to make sure that libraries with discovery services, have access to your granular level metadata. Discovery services, there's 4 very large ones that are commercially made. There are public libraries make their own. They're basically large indexed data sets of aggregated publishers that combine both publisher information and the library's catalog. So it's easy and immediate access to what researchers can use right away. And that's one of the key pieces about discoverability. Researchers need to have that data immediately. They don't want to look in one database, find the topic of a book, find something that might be interesting to them, and then have to go to another system to see if their library actually has access. They want it all sewn up together. And library discovery systems are a great tool for them. So then you want to think a little bit about the cost, right? Some of these systems, there's a large cost to this. There's either it's an investment if you're going to work with an outside company, or there's an investment if you're going to put a responsibility into your staff. So are you able to afford that? But then you have to ask the question: are you able to not afford it? When we see things like sales plateauing, when we know that the market is getting softer for our ebooks, we know that publishers are under increased pressure to make revenue however they can. Adding chapter level, more granular metadata to help discovery seems like one solution. But revenue isn't the only driver here. And as Martine just talked about, as authors become more aware of the reach of their individual books, that's going to put more pressure on publishers. So for a long, long time, the measure of a book was in its single unit sales. This book did great because it sold 500 copies. This book did wonderfully because it sold 10,000 copies. And that was the only way an author could report the success of a book, when that academic was maybe going up for tenure or looking for a new job. But now with these new tools like Springer Nature's developed and other places where authors can really understand the reach of their book, the usage of their book, what might not equate to a single sale, but it might equate to 20 people using that book, which is different than one person purchasing. So as there's new pressures from authors on publishers, in addition to the revenue, discoverability is going to become even more important for publishers. And again, the granular level, the more metadata that publishers are able to supply and libraries are able to help surface for researchers, that seems like a way that it can really help ebook sales. Good? Thank you.
Great.